The next 72 hours are going to be critical for the Trump administration and the United States. Here's why I think that is. There are two major issues I want to talk about, but let's start with the obvious. Venezuela. I'm thinking within the next 72 hours, something is going to happen within the country of Venezuela because multiple airlines are canceling flights to the region, not just the country, but surrounding countries as well, citing concerns over safety. The FAA issued a warning to flights saying that due to increased military action and activity in and around Venezuela, flights could be at risk. Civilian flights could be at risk. They don't issue those warnings if they don't know something is up. Now, do I think it's going to happen today? I do not think so. The Pentagon Pizza Index tracker does not seem to be spiking at this time, but if that changes, I'll go live and let you know. Number two, the attacks on Democratic lawmakers are going to continue. He just posted again last night saying that those 6 Democratic lawmakers should be thrown in jail. Now, is he going to try and do something before Thanksgiving? It's highly unlikely since those Democratic lawmakers didn't do anything illegal, but I think this just highlights the precarious position and the emotional fragility of Trump right now. He could literally do anything at any time, but I think it's going to be Venezuela first. Keep your eyes peeled. I'll keep you updated with information as it comes in.
What is going on in Washington? The last 4 days have been unbelievably embarrassing for us across the globe and incredibly unsettling to the American citizens because we don't know what story to believe. So this started several days ago when the peace talks with Russia produced a plan that we, the U.S., then gave to Ukraine and said, you must do this. If you don't comply with all of these 28-point demands, then by Thanksgiving, we're going to withdraw our support from you. And then on Friday night, we learned that from several senators announced that Marco Rubio told them, oh no, that's not the U.S.'s plan. That was Russia's wish list, and it got leaked accidentally, and we don't support that plan. So we're all like, well, that's a big fumble. How did we let that happen? And then almost immediately thereafter, Rubio comes out and said, oh no, this is the plan. This is what the United States. First of all, the plan is to completely decimate Ukraine. It does look like a Russian wish list from just looking at the plan. But second of all, how do we know what is going on? How do we know who we can listen to? Does the left hand know what the right hand is doing in Washington? This is incredibly concerning. It not only undermines the American people's faith in their government, but it undermines our credibility across the world with both our allies and our enemies. And don't think there aren't people waiting to take advantage of that. Go love your neighbor.
Trump playing the Walmart game. I won't even explain it to you. I know most of my audience at this point knows what the Walmart game is.
Core inflation is now below 2.7%. It was at numbers that nobody had ever seen before with them. Walmart just announced that the cost of their standard Thanksgiving meal is reduced by 25% this year from last year. So they make... Look, the Democrats, I don't know, some of you are probably liberal Democrats. I don't know about in your country. I don't know if you know that word, liberal. The word liberal doesn't exist. But they have a new word now. You can't use liberal. You have to use the word
Okay. The Walmart game. Walmart cut a bunch of items from its Thanksgiving meal package and replaced a bunch of items with cheaper store brand products. That's why the price came down 25%. It's sort of like if I say to you, hey, the price of Skittles came down, and I show you one of the tiny little, like 90 calorie or whatever Skittles things. And you would go, wait a second, the price came down, but it's fewer Skittles, right? That's exactly what Walmart did. And I have to say, what a big win for the Walmart marketing team. Because while it is not true that the Walmart Thanksgiving meal is actually less expensive, like it's less, it costs less, but it has less stuff and lower quality stuff. They have Trump out there and everybody around Trump repeating over and over again, the Walmart Thanksgiving meal, it's cheap. Customers go, they buy it. It actually is based completely on deception.
Hey, just finished up Coffee with Texas Paul and I'm fired up. When the show ends, I let the comments run because I don't want to cut it off. It's a live chat. People are having a conversation, so I just let it run. And a comment popped up that I had to run out. I was excited. I had to run out here and make a video. This is old Texas Paul. Hope your coffee's as good as mine. Well, I hope it's better. And the comment was, hang in there. Change comes incrementally. I love the sentiment, but it's wrong. It's wrong. And a lot of people kind of misunderstand my message a little bit. You know, what this person was they were trying to support what I say about don't shit on the Democratic Party. Don't suppress our vote. But I want you to think about this, folks. This is not who I am. I am the founder of the Ride or Die Democrats, and that whole movement is about primarying people. That's what the whole movement is about. If you've got somebody that's representing you that you don't agree with, you primary this. This came about because I was a Bernie voter, and then I saw a lot of people that were Bernie bros like me that when Bernie couldn't win, couldn't get over it. And they made up shit in their minds like, well, Hillary Clinton didn't, got less votes than Bernie Sanders. No, she didn't. She got 4 million more votes than Bernie Sanders. My guy lost. And a lot of people took a giant shit on the party. And that brought us Trump. So I founded the Ride or Die movement. You fight like hell for your people and what you believe in and the politics you believe in. And if there's somebody that you want to say you don't like our current leadership, a lot of people bitch about our current leadership. Say you don't like our current leadership. Well, then support a primary opponent up there. Encourage people to vote. Encourage people to show up. Don't shit all over the Democratic brand. Don't suppress the vote. Do the opposite. Encourage the vote. Show people we got the special sauce, that we'll go out there and we'll put great people on the ticket. That's what that message means. Now, to tie that back to that original comment and where I got there from here, it's really simple, folks. Change doesn't happen incrementally. It doesn't. You know, when Barack Obama became president, he opposed gay marriage. But y'all kept the pressure up, saying, no, our LGBTQ plus brothers and sisters are our brothers and sisters, and they deserve every bit of the same damn rights we do, and they deserve to marry the person they love. And we pushed and we pushed and we pushed and we pushed, and then the dam broke. That wasn't incremental. That was the dam breaking. That's how it works. So I'm telling you, keep that pressure up. Fight for the people you want to fight, but for God's sakes, don't suppress the vote and don't shit all over the Democratic Party. Love you.
Trump is furious today and woke up with this massive message because that 28-point plan that was trying to shove down Ukraine's throat, it was revealed to be Russian. And it seems like either he knew about it or maybe his team lied about it. And so he took to Truth Social to say all of this, and we need to break it down. He first goes on to say what he usually says. This war would have never happened under him, which is not true because Russia was building up their infrastructure to do this war while Trump was actually in office. He says the only reason why Putin even attacked Ukraine was because, well, he saw that Sleepy Joe was in office and that Putin then said that now is my chance and the rest is history. Then he wrote in full caps, I inherited war that should have never happened. A war that is a loser for everyone, especially the millions of people that have needlessly died. Ukraine leadership, I don't know why he wrote that in quotes, has expressed zero gratitude for our efforts, and Europe continues to buy oil from Russia. Ukraine thanks Trump almost every single day, so cut that out now. The USA continues to sell massive amounts of weapons to NATO for distribution to Ukraine. Quicker Joe gave everything for free, including big money. Well, yeah, because they're protecting NATO and protecting Europe and protecting us from Russia. And then he says, God bless all the lives that have been lost in the human catastrophe. Russia invaded Ukraine, Trump. Russia's doing lots of crimes of humanity against Ukraine. Ukraine's not doing that. You have to remember, Trump, that you've got a good side and a bad side when it comes to this war. Russia's on the bad side. Okay? Remember that. They're not our friends here. They're our enemy. For the horrible things they've been doing to Ukraine, you should be distancing yourself as far as you can from Russia. Because in the history books, Putin will be standing next to Hitler. That's where it's going to be in the history books, and you don't want to be standing next to him.
By now, I'm sure that everybody knows that on Thursday, Donald Trump, responding to a video the Democrats put out on Tuesday, called for the execution of 6 Democratic lawmakers after accusing them of sedition. Trump first posted on social media, quote, "This is really bad and dangerous to our country. Their words cannot be allowed to stand. Seditious behavior from traitors. Lock them up." And then a few moments later, Donald Trump posted, "Seditious behavior punishable by death." Now, what did these Democratic lawmakers do that was so bad? Well, they put out a video reminding service members for the U.S. military that they swore an oath to the U.S. Constitution, not to any individual, and that they can defy unlawful orders. And in fact, if they don't defy unlawful orders, then actually they can be prosecuted, and they likely will eventually. So basically, it was just a reminder like, hey, your loyalties to the Constitution, that is literally what you swore an oath to, not to one guy who has, of course, been giving unlawful orders, defying court orders about sending in troops to certain areas. So it's a very poignant and timely video. And Trump's response, of course, is to accuse these people of sedition and being traitors, and then calling for them to die. Now, you may think, but Farron, he didn't say they should be executed. He just said it's punishable by that. Sure. Till you take into account the fact that he then reposted one of his followers who said, "Hang them, George Washington would." I would say that is a direct call for these people to be executed, which of course is ironic because, I mean, wasn't it just a little over 2 months ago when we were being told by every media outlet in the goddamn country that it was the violent language from the left that led to Charlie Kirk being murdered? Weren't we repeatedly told by these media outlets that the left has to tone it down because we're the ones who are stoking violence across the country? People had their lives destroyed because they didn't properly mourn the death of Charlie Kirk. Lives were ruined, careers were ended because of that, and it was all blamed on us. And here is the President of the United States explicitly calling for these people to be killed. Democratic members of Congress who did not violate the law, they did not commit sedition, this wasn't treasonous or traitorous. It was reminding the military what they are protecting, not who.
America is collapsing exactly like the Ottoman Empire. And if you know history, what comes next isn't a mystery. It's a guarantee. And here's the blueprint the U.S. is following step by step. The Ottomans ruled for 600 years. And they made 4 fatal mistakes. And the U.S. is making all 4 right now. Firstly, they refused to modernize. Europe industrialized, built factories, railways, and modern weapons. The Ottomans kept their old systems. They fell behind, and the empire died. In the U.S., now, China dominates AI, 5G, EVs, green energy. In the U.S., Trump and the Republicans are trying to bring back coal. They are the Ottoman sultans watching the Industrial Revolution pass by. Secondly, corruption destroys competence. The Ottomans gave government jobs to whoever paid the most. Skill didn't matter. The empire rotted from within. And this is exactly what Trump is doing today. Unqualified politicians, loyalists running federal agencies. This is how empires die. Thirdly, borrowing money they can't repay. The Ottomans borrowed so much money from Europe that foreign governments took control of their national budget. They lost sovereignty to creditors. The U.S. national debt grows by trillions every year. Creditors are already hedging against the U.S. This is the beginning of the end. And fourthly, the empire split apart. Ottoman provinces stopped obeying the capital. They pursued their own interest, and the empire splintered into pieces. In America, states are running their own immigration, healthcare, voting laws, because the Trump Republican regime is a failed government. The Ottomans had 200 years to see this coming, and they did nothing. In 1922, they were gone. The U.S. does not have nearly that long. So the question is, how long do you think the U.S. can last? Let us know in the comments.
So let me get this straight. Trump pressured Ukraine to accept a Russian wish list. And even Marco Rubio is out here saying the US government does not support that plan. Okay, that's huge. Here's what just happened, and it's not getting nearly enough attention. A leaked 28-point peace plan appeared this week, and surprise, it lines up perfectly with Russia's demands. Less territory for Ukraine, more restrictions on Ukraine, everything Russia wants. But there's the twist. Marco Rubio, Republican senator, senior figure on national security, publicly said this plan is not the official US position. His words, he called it basically Russian wish list. So the US government, according to Rubio, does not endorse this document at all. It's not US policy. It's not the American position. But then Donald Trump turns around and tells Ukraine, accept this plan or risk losing US support before Thanksgiving. That's an ultimatum. So let's be very clear. A Republican senator says the US government does not support this plan. Trump pressures Ukraine to accept it anyway, and the plan itself matches exactly what Russia wants. That is a massive contradiction, because if the official US stance is not in favor of this plan, why is the president pushing it on an ally country at all? Why is he threatening Ukraine with consequences for rejecting a document the US government itself won't stand behind? What is this? Is this diplomacy? Or is this political pressure using Russia's terms disguised as peace? And the fact that Marco Rubio is the one pointing out the disconnect, that tells you everything. Even people in Trump's own party are distancing themselves from this and from him. This is a red flag for Ukraine, a red flag for Europe, a red flag for every single democracy watching this unfold. When the president pressures an ally to accept a Russian wish list, and the government says, that's not our policy. You're not looking at a peace plan. You're looking at a geopolitical warning sign. But you tell me what you think.
The Constitution is often treated like a sacred, unchanging text, but the people who wrote it in 1787 knew better. They understood that no society could stay frozen in time. That's why they gave us Article 5, the Amendment Clause. It's the mechanism that allows the Constitution to evolve, to correct its mistakes, and to adapt to new realities. In other words, they built in a mechanism for change. Think about that. The same men who lived in a world without electricity, without cars, without women's suffrage, without civil rights, knew their document couldn't possibly cover every future problem. They expected us to change it, to amend it. They didn't imagine Americans in 2025 would be chained to their exact words forever. And yet, that's the philosophy we're living under now, originalism, a legal doctrine that claims we must interpret the Constitution exactly as the founders intended. On the surface, I guess it sounds respectful. Stick to the original meaning. Don't let judges make things up on the go. But in practice, it's a weapon that shuts down democratic change. Originalism undermines the very amendment process the founders built. Instead of updating the Constitution when society changes, we let 9 unelected justices decide what 18th century language means today. And the result is paralysis. Article 5 is all but forgotten. The numbers are staggering. More than 12,000 amendments have been proposed in Congress since 1789. Only 27 have been ratified. The last one passed in 1992, and it wasn't even about rights or representation. It was about when Congress can give itself a pay raise. Talk about priorities. Before that, you have to go back to 1971 for the 26th Amendment, which lowered the voting age to 18 during the Vietnam War. And before that, the 25th Amendment dealing with presidential succession came in 1967 after the trauma of JFK's assassination. In other words, it takes a crisis for us to use the tool the founders left in our hands. Jill Lepore, in this month's Atlantic magazine, argues that our neglect of Article 5 is more than just unfortunate. It's dangerous. Because without amending the Constitution, without change, without the people themselves taking responsibility for that constitutional change, all the pressure shifts to the courts. And when courts grow politicized, when Congress abdicates its power, the system stops working. Checks and balances break down. The presidency grows unchecked, and citizens are left feeling powerless. So here's the hard question. Why haven't we amended the Constitution in more than 30 years? Part of the answer is polarization. It's incredibly difficult to get 2/3 of Congress and 3/4 of the states to agree on anything. But part of the answer is cultural. We've stopped seeing amendment as a possibility. We've allowed ourselves to believe the Constitution is fixed, unchangeable, that either the courts will stretch it to fit modern problems or we'll just have to live without practical solutions. I say no to that. That's a betrayal of the founders' intent. If we take Article 5 seriously, then the real conversation is, what changes do we need? Imagine a 28th Amendment that guarantees the right to vote and bans partisan gerrymandering. Imagine term limits or ethical rules for Supreme Court justices. Imagine clarifying that no president is above the law. Imagine enshrining an equal rights amendment so discrimination on the basis of sex or gender is explicitly unconstitutional, as should have happened since it has been ratified by over 3/4 of the states already. But whatever. Imagine constitutional protections for privacy in the digital age or for our environment in the face of climate change. None of that is impossible. None of it is utopian. It just requires us to remember that amendment is not a relic of the past. It's the democratic tool we need in the present. The founders knew the Constitution would need to change. They expected us to use Article 5. They gave us a living, breathing document, not a dead one. So, the question is not whether we can amend, it's whether we have the will to do it. Because if the Constitution is to endure after this administration's complete lack of respect for it, it must be allowed to breathe. And Article 5 is how we give it air. The process is hard by design, but the first step is shifting public imagination, reminding people that amending the Constitution is not only possible, it's necessary. So let's do it. If you value this kind of work, consider supporting me so I can keep making it. My tip jar is always open. Every contribution helps me bring more history, more context, and more truth into the public sphere. Have a great night.